Now when we start cutting our heavier plate, this is the only time that we ever change the oxygen. You never change your acetylene. Always 4 pounds of oxyacetylene for all of your welding and even cutting real light gauge metal. We're going to turn the oxygen up about 8 to 10 pounds for 1/4 inch. I'm going to cut some 1/2 inch plate for you. I'm going to go up to 15 pounds on the oxygen. If I was cutting 1 inch plate, I would only go up to 21 pounds. So the only time we change the regulators on the oxygen is just strictly for cutting. So just come over here, go up to about 15 pounds. Now we just cut with the undercutter. Now this right here is what we call the overcutter. The oxygen now comes out over the top. So this right here is the one that we recommend from a 1/4 inch all the way up to 1 inch plate. And the reason we like the overcutter is because it keeps all the heat away from our hand. So on the main weld barrel, I'm putting my number 2 tip, the one that has 2 rings on it, and I'm putting my copper tip on the oxygen side. All right, so you're heating with your main barrel, but the oxygen now comes out over the top, so we call that the overcutter because that's the one that we're actually going to pull. We're going to put it on the metal and pull. Now notice with the overcutter, the oxygen tip, you want to cut with it with the oxygen tip straight up and down. You're going to heat your metal. As soon as it turns red, pull the trigger in and hold it, but again concentrate on the oxygen tip, and even on heavier plate it's very, very important that you keep that oxygen tip still within 1/8 of an inch on that metal. Now we're going to show you some cutting with this overcutter on heavier plate that you've probably never seen. We're going to show you several cuts that's just going to amaze you just how nice a job that we can do cutting with a heavier plate. All right, now also on your heavier plate, if you pick it up and that piece is cold, what you're going to do is want to go in and just barely preheat it just a little bit, and you'll get a much nicer cut. Also, make sure you got that same gap. Make sure that your tips are lined up just like your undercutters. All right, just sort of come in here and knock the chill out of that metal. Don't take but just a second. Now keep that little cone just up off the metal until it turns red, keeping that copper tip straight up and down. I want you to see right here what little slag is on that. You can almost throw that grinder away. You can see right there just how nice and clean on that 1/2 inch plate, how fast it heats it up, how clean it cuts it, and no slag at all on it right there. Now a regular torch, if it's set up right, can still give you a straight cut like that. But I'm going to show you a couple things right here that a regular torch would never do. Because a regular torch, you got such a large heat affected zone, all that metal runs together when you try and cut real precise or real fine with it. So we come right back. Notice just how thin that we can actually cut with that gun. Well, a regular torch would never be able to do that, and it's because of our 2-tip configuration that we can do that. Now also, if you want to cut real close together, just to show you how close we can cut and still get a real nice cut, or if you want to cut a circle, always preheat that metal. If you're going to come in there and just blow a circle out. Notice just how close together that we can actually cut, and notice how clean. It cuts just as nice as a plasma cutter, and a plasma cutter, when you get on heavier plates, slows down a good bit. As you can see, we can still cut very fast. Now just to show you one more cut right here. There again, you can see just how little slag, as long as you keep that tip close to the metal, that's the whole key to cutting, you can see just how nice and clean it is. You can also look in those peaks and valleys, just how sharp, just how clean, and just how close together that you can cut. A regular torch would never be able to give you that type of cutting that we showed you right here. Whether it's a thin cut, if you want to cut real close together, you can do some very nice precision cutting using 50 to 70% less gas. Now, if you was coming in here and actually wanting to just cut a hole or blow a hole, it's just like a regular torch. You just heat it up, wait for it to turn red, pick it up just a little bit, pull your trigger and hold it in. You might want to hold your hand over it because sparks are going to fly, and it does that just about like a regular torch. Then you can go in there and cut that circle out, but if you're just going to cut a blind circle, sort of go in there and preheat it first like that.